What's up, co-reporters, and welcome back to my channel. We need to talk about that famous Love is Blind season 7 couple, well, mismatched couple, Hannah and Nick. As you are all aware, they did not make it down the aisle, and now Hannah is speaking out in an interview with Us Weekly magazine, talking about the way in which her relationship with Nick imploded pretty much before our very eyes. And she left some very interesting tidbits in there that I wanted to share with you because I kind of want to get your opinion on some of the things that she said. For example, she blamed Nick for accepting the fact that she spoke to him like crap. It was kind of like, oh, like I hit you, but you let me sort of vibes that were a little bit icky to me. And I want to know if you guys feel similarly to me at all. I'm going to pull up the interview. Let's go through it bar for bar, line for line, because there were an awful lot of tidbits that I feel as though are things that could be quite interesting to you, because I feel like this was probably one of the relationships that we were the most invested in this entire season. So now we've only got two couples that are walking down the aisle. So, well, actually, they already walked down the aisle, and both couples said I do. It was Ashley and Tyler and Taylor and Garrett, but I don't think we're all that invested in those couples. For example, Ashley and Tyler, we know Tyler is a no good, deadbeat who denied his children on television. So we don't see it for that relationship. And then when it comes to Taylor and Garrett, they're not all that interesting. Sorry, not sorry. So I think that this is the one that you guys really want to hear updates on. So let's go ahead and dig into some of the stuff that Hannah had to say about her split from Nick Dorka, but not just her split, but also her relationship with him. Okay. So when it comes to why Hannah did not wait for the weddings to say no to Nick, she told Us Weekly, and I quote, "I think it would be cruel to have his family and my family come to the wedding when we both know that this is probably not going to work out. But the other thing is, we just didn't like each other toward the end. I was not being nice, and I don't know why he would want to continue that. It was just like, we need to break this off before it gets nastier, because it's already getting nasty." Now, when Us asked, okay, why Nick came across as surprised by the breakup, Hannah says, listen, I don't know why he was surprised. It's really hard for me to understand it, and I still have trouble understanding him to this day. But I think he was surprised because he wanted to go all the way. I don't think it should have been a shock because it was pretty obvious that we were not going to make it. I was talking to him horribly, and I apologize for that. But I just can't believe he let me. I should not have done that, but he let me do it, which I think is just... Ooh, I thought the girl was toxic, but the fact that she could sit there and say that with a straight face, confirms it for me. Like I said, I thought she was toxic, but to me in this interview, she confirmed that she's toxic. In her mind, what she said and did isn't that bad because he let her say and do those things. If it were that bad, he would not have let her do that to him. And that is just so deeply problematic. And I hope that that is something that is going to be addressed on the show. I personally believe or feel as though she became emotionally abusive to that man on the show. It was very difficult to watch her speak down to him, berate him, accuse him of basically being a loser without her, and how she built him up in the couple of days that they knew each other and all this stuff. But now seeing that she justifies it by saying he let her, quote unquote, do that, that's wild to me. Okay. Now, when it comes to the conversation that Nick had with one of his other matches in the pods, who also happened to be Hannah's best friend in the whole world, Katie, Hannah said that it didn't really have too much to do with the breakup, although it wasn't all that pleasant to be left out in the dark. She also said that she was exaggerating when she said Katie was her best friend in the whole world, despite only knowing her for a couple of days at that point. She said that she, Katie, and Marissa were just super tight. And so, she means within the context of the experiment and with the pods. Okay. Now let's fast forward back to their relationship to more interesting things that we care about here, such as what Hannah meant when she accused Nick of misleading her about his appearance. Okay. She said, and I quote, "It's really hard because if he was being humorous about the Travis Kelce comparison or whatever, if that was a joke, you can't tell it's a joke on the other end. It's hard. I couldn't tell. So that's what you're expecting. But not only that, Nick, as the other girl said, Nick is not what we expected. Even though Nick is very attractive, Nick was just like, I have one green eye and I have one blue eye. I'm Cuban. I have freckles. I'm a big guy. He painted so much about himself. He gave so many characteristics that you couldn't help but build this person in your head. When he wasn't that person, which is totally fine, it was just shocking. I think we were both guilty in the way. I took what he said and ran with it, even though that's because of my own imagination. But he also gave away a lot of information to where I did have an image of him. So I know you guys are already at this point thinking, okay, Hannah, but you lied too, talking about you were the cheerleader. Guys only want to get with you because you're hot, this, that, and the other. But, the math wasn't mathing when the curtain was pulled, right? Don't worry, Hannah addresses that as well. So let's take a look at what it is that our girl had to say about that, okay? Us Weekly asked Hannah, do you think that that set you up for, the two of you up for disaster? Conversations about your looks. To which Hannah responds, maybe. I know me talking about how I was a cheerleader was a thing too. I'm like, have y'all ever seen a fat cheerleader before? You're in there and you're so confident. So you're just talking and you're not even thinking that like things that you're saying could give away what you look like or paint a picture of something that's not the reality. I think we're definitely both guilty of it, even if we didn't mean to. And so when we saw each other, I was just honest. Like I thought he was so much smaller than me, and he wasn't, I thought he was so much taller than me, and he wasn't. And we all know us ladies, typically, right? Some of you guys are outliers, which is fine, but typically we prefer a man to be taller and whatnot, and like to be, have a presence, to be, have a size, to have mass, have this like funny story. Well, it depends on, how you feel about these sorts of things, but there was this guy that I was on a couple of dates with. I think this was probably our 5th date or something like that. And then he, just by happenstance, was going to sleep over at my house. It was not intended, but it was by happenstance. It was in the middle of winter. And I had like sweats in my closet and he didn't have like clothes to change into, right? And so he's like, hey, like, can I borrow some sweats or something? And I'm like, okay. And my sweats are like a size extra small. And the man fit into my extra small sweatpants. And like, they were still kind of like big too on him. And I was like, yeah, this is not, I'm sorry, but a man wearing my extra small and it's also baggy on him, like it's baggy on me. I can't do it. Sorry, that turned me off. One thing about dating out here is, the men are tiny, like they're shorter than like in North America, but they're also like tinier as well, and it's not for me, to be honest with you guys. That's why I typically date guys who are not from, France or like, Espanol or whatever. I typically date guys from like the other side of the continent. But anyway, that's just a little kind of, what do you call these kinds of like anecdote about like, how I would feel about like getting with a guy who's like, much smaller than me. I couldn't do it. I'm already a small enough girl, I'm like a size 6. Like if a guy is even smaller than I am, it's not giving to me. Everyone's different, but I understand her in that regard. And I would be kind of let down if a guy was like hyping himself up as this gigantic football player, like Travis Kelce, or like this gigantic, like that actor Henry Cavill. Like these are very big guys. You know what I mean? So like when you say you look like that, then you show up like this and you can fit into a woman's size extra small. She's not going to be too happy. Now, let's get into Hannah feeling manipulated by Nick. Remember, she said that he was a little bit manipulative. Let's see what she said to explain herself. Hannah says that she felt manipulated in the way, like, let's go to the forbidden topic of sex, for instance. One of the reasons that Nick and I developed such a close relationship, and it was almost lustful in a way, is we talked about sex a lot and we were very open about it. And when he first told me he didn't want to talk about it on camera, I just thought, okay, I get it. Friends, family will see it. His parents are Catholic. But then I started to think, I don't understand why you don't want to share this on camera. This is a huge problem that we're having in our relationship. And I think this is stemming from my anger, which is not a good thing, but it was. I felt like I needed to talk about it. And him saying that he didn't want to talk about it, I felt like he just didn't want anything to make him look not in a good light. I was cruel to Nick and I completely apologized. I should not have acted that way. But I think I was just so frustrated because when we were on camera, he didn't say much and he was very much like agreeable, but we're not agreeing off camera. So basically, she's telling us that the man is not the way he seems like, well, he presents himself on the show. Like behind the scenes, like they're arguing and they're not getting along, but on camera, it's like, yeah, girl, you're so right. It's kind of, think of Stephen and Monica. Anytime Monica had a grievance to air with Stephen, what would Stephen do? Oh yeah, you're completely right. I completely understand. But meanwhile, what is this man doing? He is spreading it low and laying it low and spreading it wide during sleep test studies, right? Like, so I do understand her frustration here. And it's also the fact that Nick kept on like bringing up, sex to the point where even she was kind of like turned off. All the other girls were turned off. But now all of a sudden, when we got to talk about the fact that you're not performing the way that you claimed you were going to perform, it's, let's not talk about it. I'm so private. The cameras were there in the pods when you wouldn't stop talking about this. When you proposed to her, what did you say, Nick? Can I lick champagne off of your body, in a bikini or something like that? But when we're ready to talk about how you can't put it down, allegedly, or you're not satisfying your woman, all of a sudden I'm too chaste. Even this neckline is a little bit too low. I'm too chaste to be discussing such topics on camera. Please stop it. My parents are Christians, please. I get it. I get her frustration, especially if he wasn't doing the things that she said he wasn't doing. It's like, to the left, boy, to the left with your non-boiling ass pasta. Now, Us Weekly wanted to have Hannah kind of like hone in a little bit more on what she meant by all that. And so they asked her, do you think Nick wasn't as open when the cameras were rolling? To which Hannah responds, I think everything that you see is based on the truth. We said what we said, but it is a TV show and there's so much more to our relationship than you can see. They just can't show everything. It's not possible. When we were on camera, it was very different. And she also said that like she and Nick do not speak. They have not spoken since the show started airing. And when it comes to the question that she had for Nick at the reunion, her question was, why did you let me speak to you in that way? Or like, why did you let me treat you like that? I shouldn't have treated you like that. But if we really loved each other and stuff, why did we want to continue this if it was making you miserable? I just want to understand. So it really feels as though Hannah is feeling the heat and the backlash of her actions and her behavior. And she's trying to pawn all that off on Nick by saying, listen, I couldn't have been that bad to him if he didn't let me be that bad. So technically, it's his fault, which I think is just, wow, very, very ill-advised. She clearly does not have a public relations representative or anything like that in her corner, because this is just a really terrible way to go about this. Now, when it comes to a question that she had for her co-stars, Hannah says she wants to know why Tim is mad that Alex is taking naps. Let her sleep. She didn't even get to finish her dinner. What was that about? Now let's get into something a little bit juicier, which was Leo, the guy who kept bragging about having all this money and a Rolex. By the way, I saw his apartment on TikTok. It was not looking luxurious at all. My place looks more luxurious than that. Just saying. Us Weekly asked, what about Leo? When it wasn't working out with Nick, did any part of you think, oh my God, I should have gone with Leo? Hannah responds, when we had our dramatic breakup, that put a bad taste in my mouth for a bit. Leo truly was not even on my mind at all because I was so laser focused on Nick. And then after the experience, you always think like, what would have been if I would have chosen someone different? What would that relationship be like? It would be completely different, but you'll never know. I think about it sometimes, but it's not at the front of my mind or anything. And the interview ends there. Guys, how do you feel about Hannah's approach to all of the backlash that she's been receiving? Is she heading in the right direction, or is she going down a very, very slippery and dangerous slope? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.